is also from England, is from the Bank of England, and they say economists may be underestimating how fast the robots are coming. Economists may be underestimating the impact on labor markets of increasing automation and the rise of artificial intelligence, according to a post published on the Bank of England's staff blog on Wednesday. So they're saying that the potential for simultaneous and rapid disruption, coupled with the breadth of human functions that AI might replicate, may have profound implications for labor markets. A lot of people think, oh, it's all those working class sort of horrible people that voted for Trump. These are the people that we shouldn't care about anyway. This is a new actual idea in the political sphere here, in the Democratic sphere. People think we shouldn't care about these people in the Rust Belt. But here's a headline. JP Morgan software does in seconds what took lawyers 360,000 hours. The program called COIN for Contract Intelligence does the mind-numbing job of interpreting commercial loan agreements that, until the project went online in June, consumed 360,000 hours of work each year by lawyers and loan officers. The software reviews documents in seconds, is less error-prone, and never asks for vacation. Of course, this is, if you factor that 360,000 hours times $500 an hour for these corporate lawyers, you're saving $180 million. That's deflationary. That's a lot of white-collar jobs out of work.
A fast food restaurant in California has introduced a robot to flip and cook its burgers, replacing humans to work at the grill. The robot, Flippy, was developed by Miso Robotics and began its first day at Caliburger this week. According to David Zito, Miso's CEO, much like self-driving vehicles, our system continuously learns from its experiences to improve over time. Our proprietary AI software allows our kitchen assistants to be adaptable and therefore can be trained to help with almost any dull, dirty, or dangerous task in a commercial kitchen. Flippy is equipped with built-in cameras and sensors to determine when the burger is cooked before placing it on a bun. But it has not learned how to add sauces or condiments, which means a human worker is still needed to perform those tasks.
What's behind this?
For us, it's as much about turnover as it is anything else. So for whatever reason right now, millennials that we hire don't tend to stay very long. So they come in, we train them, they work for a while, then they go drive an Uber or go home to play competitive video games. So the cost of that turnover on our business is tremendous. And so to the extent we can automate certain tasks in the kitchen and the most dull, dangerous, and dirty ones, and allow robots to work side by side humans and reduce the amount we have to spend on training and retraining, that's our primary focus.
What does it cost to buy one of these robots?
Right now they cost about $30,000 US, but that cost is declining dramatically as the hardware becomes commoditized and you see increasing usage of robots.
So realistically, in a couple of years, what would a robot like this cost if it catches on?
$10,000 US.
So if you have an opportunity to buy a robot for $10,000 or employ a worker for more than that and deal with all the headaches associated with employing workers, what are you going to opt for?
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the headaches, it's also the safety of the food, right? Robots don't spit in food or contaminate food. It's consistency, quality. There's lots of benefits.
A popular restaurant in Shanghai's downtown area has employed robot waiters to serve customers. There are two types of robots in the restaurant. Some direct their way on one track, that is, and others move freely around the eatery. The robots have proven to be competent and still cheaper than human waiter staff. Moreover, they are novel and fun. The owner of the restaurant believes using robots is a good deal because each one of them only needs $29 worth of electricity charge per year.
With speeds that reach only 4 miles an hour, robots like this won't win any marathons, but they might change the face of food delivery. Already, they're getting a lot of looks.
What was your reaction when you first saw it?
Well, just thought the new space age, I guess.
Created by Starship Technologies, these sidewalk rovers pick up takeout or groceries.
Let's check it out here.
Then bring the food to hungry customers. The company is teaming up with the delivery service DoorDash to test the robots in Redwood City, California. For now, handlers escort the machines while someone else operates them remotely, but someday they'll travel solo, even in crosswalks, with operators only stepping in when they hit obstacles.
It does have 9 cameras front and back and has ultrasonics, so it has a bubble of perception, if you will. and awareness to be able to avoid obstacles.
And to prevent thefts, the lid can only be unlocked by whoever places the order.
We have alarms if you pick up the robot, like sirens, like a car alarm. It's tracked to the nearest inch.
The robots are also at work in 4 European cities, along with Fayetteville, Arkansas, and Washington, D.C., where today the company officially launched, partnering with Postmates. Recently, Virginia became the first state to allow delivery robots on sidewalks, and Florida and Idaho are considering similar laws. While there are concerns such technology could steal jobs, DoorDash says the goal is to complement its workforce with the robots tackling shorter trips.
It really allows us to free up our human dashers to take on the more complex, longer distance deliveries.
So someday a 40-pound robot just might show up at your door.
Knowledge is power, for some. Venezuela's opposition shares this view and has started to release key inflation numbers that the central bank stopped providing last year. They suggest inflation has risen by a staggering 741% in the 12 months to February.
What we are doing is covering for the gap left by the Venezuelan central bank for not publishing statistics, which means workers don't know how much their salary is worth. Business leaders don't know what their costs in fact are. The real interest rate can't be tabulated.
Venezuela's economy has been in free fall since the 2014 collapse in oil prices, which left the socialist country unable to maintain its subsidies and price controls. As supermarket lines swell and shortages worsen, many wonder if there is a way out of this downward spiral.
Are we overdoing the doom and gloom? I mean, I was looking back to 2011 when we last saw a fall like this. And on that occasion, we had falling prices, we had disinflation. Now we've got inflation. I mean, it's not as bad as it was in 2011, is it? Are we overdoing the doom and gloom?
It's tough. It is not impossible out there. I think what is really important to emphasise, though, we are seeing a perfect storm out there in the market. We are seeing the devaluation of sterling. We are seeing a business rate conversation that has been all over the headlines. We are seeing the national living wage. We are seeing the apprenticeship levy to come into fruition very soon. And that really is resulting with some significantly increased pressures to the sector.
It may look unremarkable from the outside, but this housing complex on the outskirts of the Dutch capital Amsterdam is home to an innovative new project. Of the 560 people living here, half are Dutch students, while the other half are young refugees granted asylum in the Netherlands. It's financed by the city's government and a local housing association. One resident is 20-year-old Yasser Reis. He left his family in war-torn Syria and fled to Europe on a leaky boat in hopes of a better life.
This is our kingdom. We chill and stuff.
All residents pay the same amount of rent, the majority with help from government welfare benefits and student loans. Because of its success, the city of Amsterdam now hopes to build 5 more projects like this one.
It is open for a couple of months, and in these months we see that a lot of people, a lot of refugees are being more involved with the Dutch society, so it is working. I think one of the main ingredients is they have the same age, they have a different background, but maybe they have the similar future.
Of the 280 refugees living at Startblok, the majority have come from either Syria or Eritrea. Many of them say that living alongside their Dutch neighbors has helped them integrate into their new life faster.
Well, you don't usually hear about refugees from the United States, but in the first 2 months of this year, about 2,100 people crossed the border to seek asylum in Canada. That's more than double the number a year earlier. Many of them are immigrants who were in the United States legally, but now fear that their legal status will be revoked. Jerika Duncan is on the northern border.
You know that's illegal what you're doing, eh, man?
The warnings from Canadian police are mostly ignored.
You speak English?
Towing her baby, this woman struggled through the snow.
I am refugee? Okay.
To claim asylum in Canada. She's among the hundreds of U.S. refugees who have illegally entered Canada since President Trump's first immigration order.
Okay.
U.S. refugees who cross at an unguarded part of the border are arrested. But once on Canadian soil, they are allowed to claim asylum. At an official border crossing, they'd be turned away. 646 U.S. refugees walked into Quebec last month, a 600% jump. from February 2016.
Refugees in Toronto are celebrating their new country through sewing. The Darzi program is teaching women how to start their own seamstress businesses and integrate to the culture in the process. Each of the women received training and a donated sewing machine.
You need someone to give you the rod, not the fish.
Their first collection of items for sale all revolved around Canada's 150th anniversary. The program is intended to promote self-sufficiency and give women the ability to provide for their families.
They weren't looking for handouts, and they're not looking for handouts here. They're very capable of being able to pave their own way in this country. They just need some help.
Unknown attackers launched a tear gas attack on a train in Hamburg. Reports say at least 6 were injured and 50 people total were affected, and led to a massive police presence at the Hamburg train station. 2 young men are believed to have perpetrated the attack. Paramedics and police arrived on the scene to treat the passengers of the train for various ailments, including respiratory injuries.
The so-called Islamic State is crumbling. Iraqi forces are now on the edge of Mosul's historic old town, one of the extremists' last strongholds. ISIS fighters are being killed and rounded up as prisoners. But even as they lose on the battlefield, they're still waging an online propaganda war, painting themselves as a band of holy warriors. This ISIS defector, who we met in Turkey, shows just how powerful that propaganda can be. He told us he served in the military in Jordan and then joined ISIS in late 2014, believing they'd created a just Islamic State, but said he quickly realized he'd made a mistake. They kill anyone who argues with them, he told us. He was surprised to discover their brutality, yet joined the extremists even after he'd watched some of their vicious execution videos, including the beheadings of 2 American journalists.
Why would you still join when you had seen them committing atrocities like that?
They said they were CIA agents, not journalists, he told us, and they slipped a verse from the Quran into the video to justify the killings. No Muslim could object or say this is wrong. He told us he paid a smuggler to get him out of ISIS territory last year. He's far from alone in succumbing to the extremist propaganda. There are many people who came to ISIS like me, he said, tens of thousands. If they'd known the truth, they wouldn't have joined. ISIS is losing the fight in Iraq and Syria, but that may not be enough to loosen its grip on the minds of many of its followers.
The violence in Syria continues. On Saturday, suicide bombers targeted Shiite pilgrims in Damascus. Sana, the Syrian state-run news network, said that there were 2 terrorist bombs. It was reported by Al Mayadeen, a Lebanon-based network, that the bombs hit buses, which carried people traveling to Bab al-Sagira Cemetery. The cemetery is located near one of the old city's 7 gates. Although an official number has not been released, it's believed that dozens of pilgrims were injured and at least 40 killed.
Indian-controlled Kashmir has experienced one more angry protest over the killing of 2 pro-independence activists by Indian forces on Thursday. Now, protesters denounced what they call a grave violation of the Kashmiri people's rights throughout the disputed Himalayan region. Our correspondent Shahana Butt has your details.
People in Indian-controlled Kashmir staged yet another rally after Friday prayers to protest against violence in the Himalayan valley. They also voiced their anger at the killing of 2 young protesters by Indian forces on Thursday. Mohammad Rizwan is part of an anti-India protest in Kashmir. He says Indian forces target protesters no matter how peaceful they are.
We are left with no choice. We are in constant pain and there is no way out except to voice our concern during rallies. We want peace and peaceful solution, no bloodshed.
Since the killing of a famous pro-independence leader Burhan Wani in July 2016, there has been a surge in violence across Kashmir, where ongoing clashes between Indian forces and protesters have left many dead. According to police sources, many young people have joined pro-independence outfits. However, the majority of Kashmir wants resolution on the issue through peaceful dialogue.
In the absence of any political dialogue, in the absence of any political engagement and political initiative, we see such, a scale of violence on the streets of Kashmir. So it's very problematic because India has closed all doors for dialogue, and it only wants to establish a kind of a martial law.
Kashmir is the scene of frequent anti-India demonstrations, where people have long been demanding freedom from the Indian rule.
Now, a Saudi airstrike has reportedly hit a marketplace in Yemen, killing 20 civilians, including children. That's according to medics and military sources on the ground. The incident happened in the Red Sea port of Al Hudaydah. Local reporter Hussein Al-Bukhati has the details.
Today the Saudi-led coalition have conducted an airstrike on a market in Al Khoukha port city. The city is in the south of Hudaydah province, west of Yemen. The strike happened during the busy market. This is not the first strike on a market in Yemen. The Saudi, from the beginning of their led coalition on Yemen, they have targeted over 75 markets across Yemen, and I don't think this will be the last market they will target it. I think they will keep doing so because they have targeted all Yemen infrastructure, including markets like today, and schools and port and airports.
Well, more than 10,000 people have been killed in Yemen since the start of the Saudi-led intervention 2 years ago, according to a UN report, and an estimated 18 million civilians are in need of humanitarian assistance. The UN says, too, the naval blockade imposed on Yemen has put the nation on the brink of famine. And they also added that every 10 minutes, one child under the age of 5 dies in the country.
The United Nations said Somalia and 3 other countries desperately need aid to save more than 20 million people from starvation and diseases. The UN humanitarian chief pleaded that the world come to the rescue of Kenya, Yemen, South Sudan, and Somalia. In Somalia, more than half of the country's population needs food assistance since terrorists are stealing food from people in the country. In Kenya, more than 2.7 million people are at risk of starvation. South Sudan also had a famine recently declared and has more than 7.5 million people in need of assistance.
Clouds hung heavy over this region, threatening rain which rarely comes. When it does, it's never enough. It hasn't rained enough in northeastern Brazil for more than 5 years. No water runs through the pipes in Noemia's house.
I can't remember the last time I saw water running here, more than 2 years for sure. The water trucks are our only solution. We used to have a reservoir here, but the water is dirty. We can't use it. It's just for animals, not humans.
She, like the other 2,000 residents of the town of Chadomarinho, catches what rainfall she can and tops up her buckets and containers when the trucks come to fill the neighbourhood water tanks. Natural weather cycles, exacerbated by climate change, poor investment, corruption and waste. Less water, water shortages are a new reality residents here are learning to live with.
This crisis must teach us something. We need to understand that even with the new water being transported here, drought will always be part of our lives.
I'm standing in what should be the middle of the Boccarao Reservoir, which since 2011 has seen its waters diminish from right up there to a mere dribble. Fishermen now plant crops on the reservoir bed.
If it seems like Colorado's weather has been unusually hot, dry and windy, you're right. The combination of record high temperatures and below average rainfall has forced the eastern half of the state into a moderate drought.
I don't know if I would say worrisome, but more being closely watched.
And Becky Bollinger is one of the people keeping an eye on it. She and the rest of her team at the Colorado Climate Center in Fort Collins monitor drought conditions statewide. An important job, especially after fires scorched tens of thousands of acres on the eastern plains this week.
Right now we're really in a make or break type of time of year.
She says March will set the tone as we head into the heart of fire season.
If we had a good March storm between 5 and 10 inches, you get that wet snow that you get typically in March. That would really saturate the soils.
But if the rain misses the eastern plains, a warm, windy summer could be trouble.
Perfect ingredients that if something were to happen to start a fire, that fire could quickly spread and get out of control.
The Great Barrier Reef isn't doing so great. Australia's government just said the reef is having a major bleaching event for the second year in a row. Last year, the same thing killed off 22% of its corals. Bleaching happens when corals get stressed from rising water temperatures. The animals purge their algae and are left completely white. An aerial survey showed the effects of climate change have now reached the central part of the reef, which remained relatively untouched in 2016. A bleaching event won't necessarily kill corals, but it does make them more vulnerable, especially when they happen back to back. The corals don't have time to recover. Australian officials are urging governments around the world to stand by the Paris Agreement and reduce greenhouse gas emissions to protect the reef. The Marine Park Authority will take another survey next week to assess over 1,000 other reefs along the Great Barrier Reef.
Allure magazine reports that H&M has just released a new denim collection, their first for all genders. Dubbed Denim United, the completely unisex collection will be available on the brand's website on March 23rd. The typical borders of women's fashion and men's fashion are completely blurred. Men and women's fabrics are reimagined in oversized silhouettes that flatter any bodies. Something that most fast fashion retailers have yet to tackle.
Exciting moment as it is time.
Could your TV be spying on you? If you've got an internet-connected TV, that might be possible. Secret documents show how the CIA have turned TVs into bugging devices, giving the capability a code name, Weeping Angel, named it seems after characters in the Doctor Who TV series.
A team of security researchers showed me how they've replicated the CIA's capability.
So how is it possible to turn a TV like this into a bugging device?
Well, modern TVs are basically powerful computers. They've got lots of processors on there, but most importantly, they've got microphones and internet access. So we've written a little application here. The screen's almost blank. It listens to everything we're saying and sends it off to a third party. Hopefully not the CIA.
Once the app's installed, it makes it look like your TV is off when it's actually on.
We've infected it with malware, and now we've got a microphone here that listens to anything you say.
Hello, is anyone listening?
Hi, TV.
It is possible that your TV is being used as a spy, as a big brother in your living room, but how likely is it?
The leaked documents show that the CIA worked with Britain's MI5 to develop this capability to target specific individuals. MI5 won't comment, but surveillance is a key tool in its work to catch terrorists. Bugging buildings and cars is something it's been doing for decades. The latest digital technology simply offers new ways to do that, and they say to keep us safe. For the CIA, the leak of hundreds of pages of documents is certainly embarrassing, highlighting its failure to keep its own secrets, and a former head of the agency told the BBC the leak would have consequences.
This seems to be an incredibly damaging leak in terms of the tactics, techniques, procedures, and tools that were used by the Central Intelligence Agency to conduct legitimate foreign intelligence. In other words, it's made my country and my country's friends less safe.
The latest technology has turned on new ways to monitor people, but the debate over what that means for all our privacy is not one that's going to be turned off.